I mean, I have a history by now of these so-called immersive installations. I started as an architect a long time ago, so space is always like a really big factor in my musings, if you will, and in that case, like the absence of space, right? I mean, at least as long as there's no light. I did installations with fog and stroboscopes, where also because of the fog, both visually and acoustically, you have no normal space. Or in a way, I used to say the space collapses onto you, right? So you're still in a space always, cannot be in a space. In that case, you're in this void, but then everyone so often there's this moment of light, and then of course you understand, oh, this is like this size of space, there are columns, right? There's the floor and stuff. So you can navigate, and you navigate like from moment of light to the next one. But really, for me, what interests me in this particular piece, it's a strange phenomenon. It's less about the after images, and they are really, really, sort of really interesting or somewhat hypnotic, especially the big ones, the big light spheres that also last for a long time, and that actually, even though you're back in darkness, it doesn't seem to be dark, because the after image, you see something, right? You have these objects, these things that from this moment of initial light, which is like a micro animation of sorts, from a display, there's instant decay, right? So you have very crisp, very clear, digitally rendered shapes, forms, objects, and then the after image immediately starts to fall apart and morph and become blobs and blurs out and so forth. So there's this element of ephemerality that absolutely intrigues me, where you literally see the moment, blow by. So it's a reflection on time partially, and like just be in the moment and see the moment just sort of blow in the wind, in many ways. Yeah, and it's an introspection for me anyway. It's introspective because you're stepping out of the day-to-day environment, right? Just because it's dark, like really dark, 100% dark, you more rely on your acoustic abilities, on your touch, right? If you move in the dark, you have your hands out in order to not crash into the columns. And so it's slowing down. So it's slowing you down actively, and that is kind of meditative. By the way, not for everybody, because a lot of people are really fearful, right? Like most people have a fear of darkness. It's kind of genetic, I think. And there's always the adventurous people, right, who actually enjoy it. It's true. Definitely, it's very, very fascinating. Sorry, I'm jumping around, but there are people who walk in this is like cool, and there's other people who cannot even make it through the entrance gate because it's too dark, and so the fear of the unknown is so strong that they turn around and will not enter. But of course that interests me, the psychological aspect of it. All of these things together, that creating this sort of strange zone. I mean, the light clearly comes from one side, clearly, it's like only there. And the sound comes from around and also moves at times. So these are really two different layers. Some of the sound is connected. It's really synchronized to what happens in this moment of flashing animations. And then, but sound is on throughout, even though if you experience the whole length of 21 minutes, there's moments where there's almost no sound. To the point where a lot of people say, oh, I wish it was louder.